As much as I love vegetables, tofu is probably my favorite food. And today I want to share with you 3 somewhat controversial ideas about tofu. The first idea is that we have to stop thinking of tofu as a meat replacement. It is a lot more similar in texture and mouthfeel and taste to things like fresh white cheese and hard-boiled egg whites. And when you start shifting your mindset about it, you don't expect the experience of meat when you eat it. You expect something entirely different. And frankly, tofu is its own thing. It's been invented over 2,000 years ago in Asia. It has a long history and many ways to prepare it traditionally, and in modern times we've thought of it very differently as well. And so when we think about it as meat, we're bound to be surprised or disappointed or find it bland, and it's just a misunderstanding from the get-go. Think of tofu as its own thing, not as a substitute for meat. My second controversial idea is that you don't need to submit your tofu to some sort of cruel medieval torture for this unsuspecting and innocent collection of soy curds. Not at all. You don't need to press your tofu. All you have to do is cut the package open, like so, and drain the water. I like to press it a little bit just with my thumbs, like this, to remove excess water. And then the next step is to wrap your tofu in a clean tea towel. You don't need to use disposable paper towels. And gently push it like so. Here we go. If you want to be extra precautious, perhaps you can even cut it into slabs like this, which will allow to take a little bit more water out. So slab number 1, make a fold. Slab number 2, make a fold, and slab number 3, there we go. We press it a little more, and that is plenty. And the reason for this is that the taste of tofu is actually enjoyable because it's juicy. So if you don't want juicy tofu, then you can buy extra firm or firm. But in most cases, firm tofu will have just a little bit of nice moisture on the inside that will contrast with the outside, and that is part of what makes it enjoyable. And now that you have your nice patted dry tofu, what do you do next? Well, here's my third controversial opinion about tofu. You don't do anything special other than just dice it. I don't think you need to marinate tofu. In my opinion, and it's also shared by pretty much all traditional ways of serving tofu, what's interesting with this beautiful food is the contrast between the interior of those lovely little cubes that, as we just said, is juicy and somewhat bland, but at the same time has an interesting squeaky texture, and the outside where the sauce is going to be the sticky, sweet, sour sauce. And if you bake it in a marinade, you can just dip it really quick, and then you have the marinade on the outside, but the inside of the tofu will remain different. And that contrast is part of what makes for an interesting dish. And by the way, you can eat tofu without cooking it because it's already cooked, because it is made from cooked soy milk, right? Soy milk has to be cooked, unlike almond milk. So delicious. And by the way, if you've ever had poutine, well, these lovely little pieces of tofu here are very similar and are made pretty much the same way as the cheese curds that are used to make poutine. It's fresh cheese curds that are made from using dairy milk, and they add a coagulating agent, and it creates these clumps, these curds, and then they remove the whey, which is the water that comes out, and you have those cheese curds. And when you eat poutine, like, nobody thinks that the poutine cheese should taste like, I don't know, meat all the way in. No, it's the contrast that makes it interesting. And in much the same way, if you don't marinate your tofu, then it doesn't have the same flavor on the inside as it has on the outside. It adds flavor, contrast, and just makes the dish more interesting in general. I love this. And here's another bonus piece of information for you about tofu. Not every tofu is the same. Just here, I have 3 different kinds of tofu that all have a special, unique taste to them. The taste comes, of course, from the different soybeans that are grown in different soils and will bring a very specific, perhaps subtly specific flavor to them. And then there's the water that will be different in different towns where the tofu is made. But the biggest difference in commercial tofu will be the type of coagulating agent that is used. And if you look at this one, for example, you always will have water and then soybeans as the first 2 ingredients. And the third ingredient in this one is calcium sulfate, which is also known as gypsum. And another coagulating agent here is magnesium chloride, also known as nigari, which is derived from seawater, and it's a little bit bitter. So if you're trying to make very firm tofu, you need to add more coagulating agent, and usually you will end up with a combination of those 2 types of coagulating agent. In this case, however, the only coagulating agent is calcium sulfate. Calcium sulfate, yes, I don't want to say the bad things. And this is, by the way, my favorite tofu, and it has a significantly different taste from this one. And if you look at, for example, the extra firm tofu of this brand, it comes in a slightly different packaging. It has no water around it because it's all been pressed out pretty much. And the primary coagulating agent in that case will be magnesium chloride, nigari, and it has a completely different taste. And so you can, and this one here is also, this one is calcium chloride. So different ways to make tofu will result in different taste, the different soybeans, the different soil, the different water, and then of course there's the different preparations. So not every tofu is the same. You can just cut it open, take a piece, and eat it, compare them to each other, and find out which one you like best. Tell me in the comments what your favorite tofu is and your favorite way to prepare it. If you have any questions about tofu, go ahead and ask. I don't have all the answers, but I know where to find them. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you'd like to get more updates about really good food and what's going on in the vegan family kitchen. See you around.